Standers. This is Sheila Hollinger from Marriage Revealed Ministries. I just want to welcome you and thank you for joining me today. We're going to talk about discovering anger. There's many of you who have written in and shared with me that you're just really having a hard time processing through some of the emotions that you're feeling, some of the hurt that you're feeling, and that you're just not sure how to go forward. So I'm going to share with you something that happened to me recently and how I was able to discover the reason that I was going through such anger. First of all, anger is a reaction most often to hurt. You feel betrayed, you feel lost, you feel hurt by something, and anger is one of the first go-to emotions that we easily will go to, because sometimes just feeling the hurt doesn't it doesn't work. We just would rather go straight to anger. We don't, especially for men, processing hurt is not something that that they want to do. So anger is much easier to feel angry, to feel, you feel betrayed, so you just go straight to anger. Some people process hurt by trying to fix the issue right away, and they might try to fix it with manipulation, control. Some people go straight to self-pity, feeling sorry for themselves. So there's a lot of ways that people will try to handle hurt. Some of them are not good. Especially if you go to self-pity, feeling sorry for yourself, going to victim mode. And there's reasons for that, and I'm not going to get into that, but these are manipulation, ways of handling it, because you haven't learned yet to discover the deeper issues behind the response that you're giving. So I'm going to share a little bit about something that I went through this summer. And it was in response to feeling intense anger over something. So we have these plants in front of our house that my husband loves to trim back. And over the years, they've gotten trimmed more and more and more to the part where they are disappearing. And I've discussed it with him, and I said, I understand why you're trimming. I know they're in your way. But, I love these plants, and if we could keep some of them, if we could find a happy medium, we've discussed it many times. We've had these plants for years. And one day I came home, and we were down to 2 of them, and they were trimmed back severely. And it's not something I've not seen before. Like I said, this is something that happens, especially when he's out there mowing. Here in Florida, he literally has to mow twice a week. The grass grows incredibly fast. So anything to make his job easier. So I get why he would trim these philodendrons that are always, getting in his way. But my response to it was different this time. This time I went into full-on rage. I literally broke. I saw the plants trimmed sitting by the edge of the road, and my anger was inconsolable. And I had to go and sit with the Holy Spirit for a while. And I had to, process it. I even, contacted my friend and asked for prayer, asked for help, because what I was dealing with just wasn't natural. It wasn't normal. And a lot of times we won't process the anger and the pain in a healthy way. We'll feel it and we'll express it the way we've always expressed it, So maybe in the past, because I hadn't felt it and that's intense, maybe in the past, you chew your spouse out, or you lash out, or, you pout, you throw up a pity party, you lock yourself in your room, you cry it out, whatever, right? Some people, because they're not handling the anger very well, they might turn to something that has helped them. Maybe it's drinking. Maybe it's getting on the phone and venting to a friend. And, not all these things, like venting to a friend and drinking are actually going to help you heal, right? It's not going to help you heal. It might help to let it out, to vent. You might feel like it helped, but it's not really helping, especially if there is an underlying issue, a reason that you need to discover, and venting isn't helping you discover. Now, there's a difference between venting and getting on the phone with someone and saying, hey, I need to talk this out with you. I need to talk it through. Sometimes you can do that with a friend. Talk through your feelings. Get to the root of it. What's going on, especially if you have a Holy Spirit-filled friend who hears from the Lord and can listen to the Holy Spirit while you're speaking and then say, this is what I feel, the Lord is sharing and speaking, So that's a really good thing to have in your life, is a friend who can hear the Lord for you, especially while you are struggling through some of these, pains. So after I called my friend, I went to the Lord and I just said, I need help. I am not dealing with this and I need to know why. And what the Lord showed me was through processing. Now, a lot of times we don't want to do this because you literally do have to address. You have to go to the feeling and let it out. Not let it out, but you have to address it. You have to dig at it. You have to say, why am I feeling this? What am I feeling? And so as I processed through seeing the plants cut, I felt disrespected. So, okay, why do I feel disrespected, Sheila? It's plants, So I dug even deeper, all right? I feel disrespected. I feel like when he cut the plants, he made a decision that he wanted his way and what I wanted didn't matter. So this is me processing and talking to myself. Okay, so I took into consideration, but, those plants are in his way. And I reasoned with it, but it still wasn't helping. So I did throw in truth, right? But it still wasn't helping. I still felt disrespected. I still felt. So with the help of the Holy Spirit, I said, all right, well, where's this coming from? Because truth isn't helping me now. So as I prayed, I thought about, have I ever felt this type of disrespect? Have I ever felt this type of pain that someone didn't care if I loved something? They just didn't care. And immediately I thought back to my childhood when my father would go to the pound and bring home dogs, and we had to move quite a bit. We always had to move. And a lot of times when we moved, if we moved into a new home, we didn't take the dogs with us, so I would come home from school and find the dogs gone. And this went on for years. We would get dogs, I'd come home, find them gone. And the Lord was showing me that in that situation, something developed, a deep, deep, deep broken place. And that's what I was discovering. And what was happening was when I came home and found those plants gone, destroyed, sitting by the road, it immediately transported me back to being a child when I would come home and find my dogs gone. And I loved those dogs. Now, knowing what I know now, right? I know some of those dogs, when you go to the pound and you pick up a dog, as a parent, you have to watch. Is that dog going to turn on my child? Because they don't know the history. My dad got rid of some of these animals because they were not safe. I didn't know that. I was a little kid. All I knew is it was a dog and I loved it, and I was heartbroken and felt a certain way. Why would my dad hurt me like that? Why would he take away something I loved? Why didn't he care about my heart? Why didn't he care about my feelings? Why did he disrespect me? Whatever it was that I was coming to that decision, it was creating a big broken place in me. And that broken place obviously stayed in my heart, because the moment I saw those plants cut back, that broken place revealed itself, and I felt the same way. Why didn't my husband care? Why did my husband hurt me and not consider my feelings? Was I not important? I don't know exactly all of the emotions, all of the belief that had formed around that, but that is what came out as rage. Now, a lot of times you don't have to discover every single feeling, every single emotion, but sometimes you just have to go to the place that it was created. And for me, it was created back when I was a child. So that's what was coming out. And it took some time to work through that with God. And I'm still actually working through it. I'm still going back to that place with God saying, Lord, I need continual healing for when I was a child and I felt neglected. I felt ignored. I felt unimportant. All these things started coming out and I would just confess them to God. And then I have to consider, this was a person who wasn't doing this to hurt me. Did it hurt? Absolutely. Did it feel like they didn't care? Like, how could you keep hurting me over and over and over? And then I would think back, my dad didn't like emotions. So I would have to hide how I felt. How did my dad even know that I cared about those animals to the point where I wept? I would stay up during the night crying and crying and crying. So a lot of times we just come up with these narratives in our head. Well, of course my dad knew. And he still did it anyway. And you just come to these decisions in your mind. But a lot of times we don't come to the right decision. We don't come to the right, belief. And it really is about a belief. And so I have to go back and keep digging at this belief and chipping away at it and letting God heal me from it. Because I really did believe that my father did not care, did not consider my feelings. So as I was talking this out with God, God said, Sheila, why do you think he brought the dogs home in the first place? And it was like mind-blowing. I was like, what? All I looked at was the fact that he took them away. But God was saying, your dad loved dogs too, but that's not why he kept going and getting them. He got them because he knew how much joy and comfort you got out of the dogs and the puppies. And I mean, we went through a lot of them. And that's what my dad saw. He saw the joy. He saw the happiness. He didn't see me crying at night. He didn't get it. But he also was being protective at times if these dogs were not, good fits for our family. Some of these dogs were very destructive, and they would, it was my mom. She's like, get rid of this dog. It's destroying our home. So there were other factors that I didn't take into consideration. All I cared about was the dog was gone. I was hurt. And my young mind just didn't process it, right? But now as an adult, I was able to go back and revisit that belief, okay? A belief that someone would do that to me, and it's because I just wasn't important. And so when I stared at those plants, all that feeling came back. I'm not important. You didn't consider me. You didn't consider what I love. You didn't consider what I care about. And that's what it was. Over a plant. See, it wasn't about the plant. Some of you are dealing with intense pain that was formed around something that happened to you at a younger age by someone else. And now your spouse is exposing it by what they're doing. Right? So now you're angry and you're hurt at them for what they're doing now, but you're also processing a pain from many, many, many years ago. Some of you feel betrayed by a parent, unloved, rejected by a parent. It could be even a past relationship. And it's compounding all of it together. So now your situation right now, your anger right now is not just about what's going on right now. So I just want to, I want you to know that if what you're feeling doesn't feel like it fits and it's much more intense and this is bigger. I've never had such an anger issue before. There are probably most likely things that God's saying it's time to heal. You can't walk around with this belief. You can't walk around with this pain from a situation that happened so many years ago that's formed, a belief system now. And what it does is it gets triggered. And that's just something that, you've got to process and you've got to dig. But you got to be willing to dig. Like I said, sometimes we're not willing to dig. We just want to handle it the way we've always handled pain. We've always handled anger. And so recently, some of you know about the magazine that we started this year. And this was something that, I kind of just was like, okay, Lord, I always knew that one day this magazine would come out. It was something I had laid down many, many years ago, and I had a promise from God about, the magazine being resurrected. I didn't know at the time it would be a standing magazine. But anyway, I've been really struggling with this magazine. It's my only steady income. I don't take an income from the ministry itself. So the magazine has provided a steady income. This is the first time in 7-8 years I've ever had an income from the ministry. And it's something that I am dealing with because I'm becoming resentful. And let me try to explain. The magazine is very hard to put together. It's very hard to find content. It's very hard to find writers. And because of the level of how hard it is, because of how difficult and the struggle that I'm going through, right? That's what's making me resentful. That's what's making me angry. And I'm also faced with, well, if I put this down, I lose my income. And so it felt good after all these years to finally have an income, bring in some income. We're talking about very little, but still it felt good to bring in an income after all these years. But I'm also talking to God about the hurt. Some of the pain that is going, processing this. And I've learned that when I get hurt, when I deal with struggles, I feel like, God, it shouldn't be this hard. If I'm doing this, why aren't you providing and helping in a certain way? So I'm learning with myself that when I get upset, I'm not handling my being upset with God the right way. And this is something that I'm struggling in. I've shared this before during my storm. I would go to God in my anger and in my hurt, taking things personally. And it's all about attitude, right? And I'll tell you right now, I know right now that I don't have a good attitude toward this magazine. It's just such a burden to me right now because, like I said, I cannot find content. I can't find writers. And the level of responsibility, I cannot fill up this magazine all by myself. And it's creating this heaviness over me where I'm literally telling God, take this back. I don't want it. I can't do this. I cannot do this. And every time I ask him to take it back, something happens where someone comes along and does something, and I think, okay, God, you're speaking, you're not letting this go, and I can feel it. But at the same time, I'm getting frustrated, I'm getting resentful, and I know that I need to go deeper with God, and I need to discover why I'm going to the places of being resentful, right? because that is not what I want to do when I'm doing this magazine. And I told God, if I'm being resentful over something that I'm doing for you, that's not right. I have to watch my attitude. I have to understand that working for God, am I being that, ungrateful Israelite wandering in the desert, being grumbling and complaining over something because I don't understand why there, it's a struggle. Why? Maybe there's a struggle there because he's trying to work out the issue in my heart that makes me become resentful. Maybe that's the only reason. Who knows? But it's you get to a point, a place where you can become, kind of resentful and murmur and complain, and you don't want to deal with it, right? And that's where I've been finding myself. I just want it to go away. I don't want to discover. So that's why this was really a good thing for me to bring up, because with the plant, I wanted to discover, right? I did. I absolutely went straight to God and said, all right, let's dig this up. Let's figure out what's going on. With the magazine, I don't want to do it. I don't want to discover why I'm so angry, why I'm so upset. And so there's a difference there, Part of it, I think, is because I really, really want to lay the magazine down. And I'm at the point where I think if I go into self-discovery with God, I'm going to discover, guess what? I can't lay it down. That he's going to fix the problem, and I'm going to have to keep going. And so that's a reason right there for some of you why you won't go into discovery with God, because you might find out, guess what? You're wrong. And if it's an issue with God, you're always going to be wrong because he's not wrong, right? So sometimes we don't want to press in and discover because we know, deep down, we know there's an outcome there that it's not what we want. So we would just rather walk around and be angry. And there's some situations that that God's saying, this is it. This is what it is, and you have to deal with it. You have to put up with it. Your spouse had an affair, and there's a child from it. As much as you want to be angry and you want to, you want something, I don't know what that is, and you don't know what that is, but you want something, and that child, that child's here to stay, right? So again, sometimes we just walk around being angry because we don't want to be okay with it. We don't want to concede. We don't want to find that peace. We just want to stay in the hurt. So these are all reasons why sometimes the anger is there and we go through it and we let it subside a little bit, and it comes back and we let it subside. But it's just this daily reoccurrence. Sometimes it's our pride. Our pride brings that anger up over and over and over. Sometimes it's lack of, pride will say, I'm not letting them off the hook. I'm going to rehash this pain constantly. I'm going to go through this constantly. I'm going to keep it alive. There's so many different reasons that it happens. But I'm just here to encourage you. There's a reason God says don't let the sun go down on your anger, right? There's a reason he says be angry but don't sin. He wants you to process it. He wants you to dig deeper and discover. And that takes courage. So for some of you, that's where you have to start. You have to say, God, I'm angry. I haven't had the courage to face it. I haven't had the time or the desire to dig, but I know I need to. So I just want to encourage you today. God understands your anger. He understands what you're going through. He wants you to heal. He wants you to come to him. He doesn't want you to manipulate or control out of that anger. He wants you to be set free. And if there's things in your past that you have struggled with, he wants you to face them. Because a lot of times those perceptions we formed as a child with only part understanding, right? Like the part I understood was my dad took away. It never dawned on me that my dad brought those dogs home because he loved me, because he cared about me, and he wanted to see me happy, right? My child brain did not even consider that. But my adult brain, it made sense. So sometimes you do have to revisit things that happened in your past and now understand it because you're more mature. And now you can see the bigger picture and you can acknowledge things. So if this video helped you, I would love for you guys to give it a like, and you can write in the comments and share. All right, God bless you guys.